Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Amanda from hookemcreations, and today we are continuing the knitting machine series, especially the circular knitting machines such as the Addies and the Centros that you've been seeing on TikTok and other social media platforms that you may have seen them on. I have an Addie. This is what I own, and I am going to walk you through how to troubleshoot your machine if you ever come into these types of scenarios. So the first one up, which is always the most common one, is it may sound like your machine's about to break, or there's a lot of clicking sounds to it. And a lot of it has to do with your tension. So if your tension is too tight, I'm going to demonstrate what it can sound like. So I'm right now I'm doing death grip on this. Here we go. And it's making it really hard to work with. Well, first off, I'm going to start right here. One of my stitches didn't drop. So I'm going to back it up a tiny bit and try and fix it. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm just demonstrating on you. And you don't like it. I know. There we go. So that's a perfect example right there. If your tension is too tight, it may cause your stitches to not drop onto your knitting machines. So what happens is, if you saw the last couple videos, I know they weren't very close up, but what happens is when you have a stitch, the working yarn is going underneath the needle, but the previous stitch that you did in the previous row is going to come up and over two little pegs, so the new stitch can come in and be clamped down by the needle, so that way when the next stitch comes up, the loop that was over the two pegs will push back up and drop behind it, so the new one can come up and over those two little pegs. If your tension is too tight, then the yarn that was lifted up with the needle may not drop over those two little pegs, and therefore can cause problems in your knitting. So I'm going to try and fix this, because now everything is really, really tight. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. You gotta talk to your machine sometimes and tell them that you're sorry. Especially when you're trying to make a video about how not to do things. Here we go. There we go. There we go. Nice and easy now. Because this is what you want it to sound like. You want it to sound like a well-working machine. You don't want it to sound like it's breaking. And it's asking, what the heck did you do? So that is one thing. I will say, if you don't have one of these little pegs here, these are tools that you can get from loom knitting. If you are interested in loom knitting, I have a loom knitting. It's for like socks or something like that. It's a little one. It's not a big one. But it came with one of the, I have two of them, and it came with one, and I got a second one as a backup. And I love it for the knitting machine, because in that scenario, if yarn gets caught or splitted, or the yarn splits, I can go in and fix it really easy, because it's nice and little compared to my hand. See, it's a nice little hook to have in your stash of equipment for these knitting machines, and they're only a couple bucks, maybe $5 at the most. I think I got this on sale. That's probably why I got it for like a couple bucks. So Definitely watch your tension when you are working on your knitting machines. The second thing is, what happens if the loop doesn't drop and the knitting gets all caught up into one? So in other words, the loop didn't drop, and so now it went back down by the needle, and it's also caught with the working yarn, and then all of a sudden it pops up, and now both those loops go over the two pegs. What happens then? So there are two options. Option A, which is the one that I usually go for, is you just take it all off and start all over. I prefer that method because the other one, in my opinion, is just a pain in the butt to deal with. Option 2 is, if it's far enough along and you have a couple rows in and you don't want to take it off the machine, the other option is to drop that row, that stitch row, undo all the stitches, and then work it way back up again. And I will say probably the best thing to use for that is a crochet hook, especially a Susan Bates crochet hook. I am not a Susan Bates crocheter. However, when it comes to the knitting machines, I love using the Susan Bates crochet hook for this very reason. The Susan Bates crochet hook is inline like that compared to the other crochet hooks, which are more rounded, like so. So that inline grabs the yarn a lot easier. It gets a good grip of the yarn, and you can pull it up a lot easier. I also use it for when I'm trying to create a cuff or a band for like a hat and such. I use this to pick up the stitches and bring it up over the needles, which you can do with your knitting machine. I've done that multiple times and they turn out fabulous. So that is two ways that you can do to fix the double knitted stitch. If you're using the drill attachments like these or an actual machine, that's also another reason why those stitches are not dropping. So if you're using a drill, please use the recommended drill that the manufacturers or creators of these drill attachments say to use. I know the bigger drills have more power to them, and they can work a lot faster. I have used them, but I found that I kept getting stitches caught or dropped because I was using those drills and trying to get things to work a lot faster. I do have a smaller one for these machines, and it works just as well, but it allows me to work at an even pace and not get my stitches all caught up into the machine. So please listen to the instructions that the manufacturers of these. So please listen to the instructions that the creators of your drill attachments say to use, because you just don't want stitches caught up and broken and things go crazy. So please listen to instructions. And then what happened, and you can also see where it was too tight on the stitches and where the tension was really nice. So this is where the tension was too tight and it causes problems in your stitches. So just keep an eye on your tension. That's really the big thing with knitting on these machines. It really does help to watch your tension. If your tension is too loose, it will cause just differentiation between your stitches if it's too loose or too tight, like I showed you before. And I tried to show, I tried to be super loose on some point. I think it was up here. Up here is where it was like super loose. This is when the tension was nice and held, and then I tried to be nice and loosey-goosey, which happened up here. So this is too tight, loosey-goosey, and in here is really nice tension. So really just keep an eye on your tension. That's really what the main troubleshoot is. You can open up these machines if there is an actual problem. If you have a broken needle, you can go in and replace the needles. That's why they come with spares, and you can also purchase these separately if you run out of them. To make sure that the machines are well oiled and running smoothly and cleaned up, I do sometimes open these up and clean them, do just basic cleaning with some water and maybe some soap. I do a little bit of Dawn dish soap. It doesn't harm it. It's all plastic. Since there are gears in there, I do use a sewing machine oil to lube it up a little bit and just to make sure it's running smoothly when I am using it, especially if I am getting ready for market prep and I'm using it constantly and making tons and tons of products with the knitting machines. I do take time out of my day to actually clean out the machines after a big market prep, because there's usually fuzz and little bits and strands of yarn that can get caught in there. So really do spend time to clean it up. You can take it apart very easily. Maybe I'll do a YouTube video on how to do that and how to clean it. It's super easy. I do it again after a big market prep, things like that. Or if it sounds like it's a little funky in there. Also, if you purchase one of these machines, Addie gives you a handbook on how to use the machine, and also has a whole background and also has a whole section on troubleshooting as well. So you're in good hands if you get one of these machines for sure. If you enjoy our videos and enjoy our content, be sure to buy us a coffee. The link is in the description below, as well as liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. Until next time, happy crafting!